at the end of the day, like we talk about in the book, it's all economic uh, at this point, that it's cheaper to save the planet than it is to destroy it.
Hey y'all, it's Becky here from The Becky Sphere, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Becky, and every Tuesday and Thursday we talk about the climate here. The problems, yes, but the solutions, yes. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go ahead and click that subscribe button below, hit the like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And today we are doing part 2 of the interview I did with Andreas Karelas, who is the founder and executive director of the solar nonprofit Revolve, which puts solar panels on nonprofits. And he is also the author of the latest climate book that we have been reading in our Climate Book Club series called Climate Courage. So go ahead and get your copy of this, even if you haven't been following along. We're going to move on to our next book afterwards, but I still highly recommend this one. Let's, without further ado, get on to the part 2 of my interview. How has the pandemic impacted the solar industry so far? Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that despite you know the negative impacts that everybody has been feeling, the solar industry had a really good year.
Okay.
2020, Revolve. Personally, we had the nonprofit that I run, Revolve. We had our biggest year. We deployed more solar than ever before. I think there are a lot, and our focus is on nonprofit organizations that want to go solar, and so they were looking to save money more than ever, right? So they were looking
Right.
for those types of options. And I think a lot of people were in that boat. I think a lot of people were, they're at home, they're looking, how can I save money while the economy is so bad? Solar is a great way. But that being said, the solar industry had another record-breaking year in 2020, and partly that was because there were tax credits that were expiring or dropping down at the end of 2020, and actually through the last recovery package, those tax credits have been extended for 2 years, which is great news for the industry. But yeah, I think the industry had a really good year. I don't think it was really negatively affected by the pandemic as much as other industries. And I think now that the Biden administration, then bringing all of these amazing clean energy and climate heroes into the DOE and the EPA, I think it's only going to be upwards from here. I mean, we're just going to see a tremendous growth over the next few years.
Are you excited for the future?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, well, that's a big question. But in terms of like clean energy and climate solutions, I'm very excited about the next 2 years. I think that the right people are being brought into the administration who have the vision of what's possible. And at the end of the day, like we talk about in the book, it's all economic at this point, that it's cheaper to save the planet than it is to destroy it. And the more people realize that, the more quickly this will happen. It's both beneficial for consumers, it's also beneficial for producers and the companies. So really, the government is, has been a bit of a sort of, has been gumming it up in a way. But now that you've got, some federal push to advance clean energy and climate, I think we're going to see a lot of momentum in the next few years. And I think that the more that happens, the more people will catch on, and it'll be a no-brainer. I mean, within the next few, first of all, electric cars are, growing so much faster than anybody could have ever imagined. Tesla is now the most valuable. Tesla's valuation is worth all of the other car companies combined. And
Elon's the richest person in the world now.
Which hopefully he decides to do some good with that, by giving it back. But yeah, I think we're going to see the more momentum that comes around this and solutions, the more people are going to turn on and say, this makes total sense. This is not a partisan issue. And then it's just going to be more momentum. You can't stop it. The cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the main parts of the book that you prioritize is how solar in particular, but renewable energy is truly an opportunity for communities that have been disenfranchised for the longest time. And I'm wondering if you are starting to see through that kind of a demonopolization of the energy sector. Do you think that that's going to keep going, or do you think that the monopolization will come back? Like,
Yeah,
what's
no,
your
that's a good
prediction on
question. I
that?
mean, there's often, a fight, right? I mean, even in California, where we have, have historically had, one of the most progressive and forward-thinking energy policy sort of histories in the country. Uh, Even still, right, the utilities and the interest groups are fighting net metering. They're trying to slow down the deployment of solar because they're threatened by it, right? I mean, the utility model is based on owning big assets and shipping power over long distances and not having any competition, being these sort of regulated monopolies. And the new technology is distributed in nature.
Yeah,
Solar panels, batteries, microgrids, electric cars, smart meters. That's where the technology wants to go, and it's also where it's most beneficial for the customers. Right? We
yeah,
can have more energy security. We have power during a blackout. We can support our neighbors, buy and sell power from our neighbors through these technologies. So I think mentioned it in the book. The 3 Ds of clean energy: democratized, decentralized, and distributed. Um, Meaning that it's of the people by the people. Sort of owning their own energy and buying and selling it to each other. It's local in where it's being generated. It's not being shipped over long transmission lines. And yeah, you have a wide disparate network of clean energy as opposed to these centralized locations that are powering it, in this inefficient way. So I think that that's where the technology is going to go. I think that the utilities and the energy providers and the grid moderators, regulators are going to have to adapt to the new technology, and it's going to be scary and it's going to be a fight, and they're going to have to figure it out. I do think that the utilities are still going to play an important role, as well as the grid operators and all these entities.
right.
But they're just going to have to think about how do we synthesize what we've been doing historically. What are the new business models that allow a utility to be able to be a profitable entity and to continue to operate while providing a different service, because now people are getting their power from their roof or from the local community microgrid as opposed to a power plant in the distance. So it's an evolving area, but I do think it's going in that direction, and I don't think there's any way of stopping that.
Yeah, yeah. In your own community, what have they done in the way of solar? How have you impacted your community since your book is so community based? I imagine that you probably are trying to steer your personal community in a good direction.
Yeah, that was a great question. When I started Revolve, we, basically we're thinking to ourselves, okay, how can we, help spread solar energy in the community, and how can we give people the sense of, uh, here's how you can get involved, here's how you can have an impact. And we came up with this idea, which was basically a crowdfunding model where people could donate money to help put up solar on a local nonprofit. So here in San Francisco where I live, um, there's a food co-op grocery store called Other Avenues that I've been shopping at since I first moved to the city, over a decade ago. And it was our third project for Revolve, where I was there shopping one day and I saw that they were replacing the roof, and I just said to the cashier, hey, have you guys ever thought about putting solar up? And they said, yeah, we've been looking at it for years and we've tried to find it, we couldn't figure out how to do it. And I said, well, I run a nonprofit and we finance solar for local organizations, nonprofits, and co-ops. So, yeah, I mean, I smile with pride every time I go in there, knowing that, the refrigerators and the freezers that are powering the produce, that are keeping it cool, that they're just powered by, a 32 kilowatt solar system on the roof that I, got to get up on the roof and help install. So, that to me is powerful. But, in the Bay Area, one of the things that was really innovative was this, and I talk about in the book, is this idea of community choice aggregation. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, San Francisco has Clean Power SF, and East Bay has East Bay Community Energy, and
Yeah.
Marin has the Marin Energy Authority, Marin Clean Energy. And so basically, these were community-led initiatives where people basically said, look, we want to wrestle away some of the power from the utility because they're not doing what we need in terms of creating a more democratized, decentralized, distributed, clean energy grid. And
Mm-hmm.
and they were successful in that. California was the first place in the country to pass a community choice aggregation law, and Marin was the first one to do it. And then it gets better each time, right? San Francisco is a little bit better. The East Bay is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Other parts of California have done it. Other parts of the country have since done it. You see this in Illinois and other states where they say, wow, we can, as a city, as a municipality, we can procure our own energy, and whether that's cleaner or cheaper, and then still have the utility do the distribution of it. And that's pretty innovative. So I think there's a lot happening in people's communities. And the other thing that I point to a lot is, the Sierra Club has their Ready for 100 campaign, and they basically train volunteers to go around the country and get local elected officials to commit, whether that's at the city, county, or state level, to a 100% renewable energy commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been so successful that 1/3 of every American now lives in an area that has a commitment to 100% renewable energy.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's, again, it's just a matter of volunteers going out and doing something in their local community that can have, it might not seem, if you live in a small town, it might not seem like, you're really going to solve that big of a, you're not going to have that big of an impact on climate change by your tiny town going solar by committing to 100% renewable. But when it's one town and another town and another town, and then all of a sudden you got 1/3 of America is, going to be committed to 100% renewable, that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for advice for me, I live in an apartment, so there's not really any incentive to get my landlord to put up solar panels because he doesn't really pay for it, you know. But I do have PG&E, so I'm going to try to have it be like fully renewable energy, like their sort of system. But what would you recommend for me living in the Carmel area, to start the community movement in my area?
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to say that I'm not sure where the nearest community choice program ends, but that would be interesting to see. Could they
Yeah.
expand it? For example, when Marin Clean Energy first got started, it was just focused in Marin, and then Richmond, which is on the other side of the bay, was basically like, well, we want in, and eventually they, expanded to include the city of Richmond in
Yeah.
Marin Clean Energy. So there's that. If there's a CCA in the neighboring region, maybe they could expand it. The other thing would be, yeah, maybe doing a Ready for 100, commitment, if that's not already there, right? Is to say, hey, let's get, Carmel to commit to 100% renewable. The other thing would be, as Revolve, basically, what our model is that we, train what we call solar ambassadors. So to go out and find local projects and help develop those for local nonprofits. So if there are nonprofits in your area, maybe it's a local Boys and Girls Club or YMCA, or, a local house of worship that you know of or have a relationship to, you could go knock on their door and say, hey, are you interested in solar? And then, there's basically a short online training that we do on our
Mm-hmm.
website. And it takes an hour, and basically gives you the tools to kind of have that conversation. And
Yeah.
and then we can help finance a solar project for, in your community. But it doesn't end there, because once that nonprofit goes solar, we would then do a whole, you and your team of solar ambassadors would do community engagement around it. So we would have ribbon cutting events and put out press releases, and invite people to sign up for local solar installers, and see what types of local policy initiatives they could get involved in. So that's always fun, right? And you could, it's working with other people, and it's getting a nonprofit involved, and then that reaches all their community members.
Yeah, and working with the local news and stuff to spread the word. Yeah.
Tell the story, make a cool video, post it on social,
Yeah.
all that. And then, lastly, PG&E actually does have a green pricing program, so you can, sign up to get, 100% clean power, from PG&E. That's something that anybody can do. The kind of easy thing is, check it off on your bill. So I do recommend everybody does that if they, but of course, exploring all these other options is even cooler.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How do you keep track of all the different things that there are to do? Is there some sort of website that you recommend to people who are looking to get started in changing their own lives or changing community lives that could give them a bit of a step by step on what would be good to do?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, one thing is, so obviously in the book, the last chapter, I talk about, what I think are the highlights of like steps that you can take.
Right. Yeah.
And then actually on the website, climatecourage.us, there's a tab called Take Action. And on that, there are all these different, basically, depending on what your role in your community is, you can click on that and see, additional steps. Now, the truth is, that was actually all meant to be in the book. We had to cut it down because it was too short. So basically, the editor said, "Okay, just take that out and put it on the website as like an additional resource." So I think that is kind of cool, because it speaks to, if you work in government, if you're a teacher, if you're a college student, if you're a K through 12 student, like what are the different things that you can do in your community? So climatecourage.us, the Take Action tab. Um, that's kind of where I've put my thoughts. But there are a lot of great organizations that have these types of resources. I mean, honestly, I think, the biggest thing, and this is what I talk about in the book, is rather than, as much as it's important to take your own individual actions, rather than beating yourself up about, the whatever, fill in the blank, like thing I did that I wish I hadn't done, and it's bad for the environment, and certainly better than shaming the people around you, which is not going to win over any converts. I learned
Right.
that the hard way.
Me too.
The best thing is, really, the most important thing we can do is talk about climate change, talk about the solutions, and just in a way that invites somebody into the conversation, and just opens up that ability to I joke that it's like, climate change has become like religion or politics or sex or money, where it's like none
Yeah.
of that, you can't talk about any of them. It's like they're all off the
Faux
table.
pas.
Faux pas, I
Right.
can't bring it up. It's like, no, we need, and this is what, Catherine Hay, who wrote the forward of the book, her big thing is, the biggest thing we can do is talk about it. And I agree with that. And the fact that we now have a president who's leading with climate change, and putting it front and center in his agenda, is going to make it that much easier to talk about, because it's in the news every day, and it's, hey, did you see the new
Yeah.
executive action? So yeah.
I honestly, like, I never it's surreal to me that that's reality now, that there is someone in the White House who actually cares about the topic and that it's actually moving. I wasn't sure if that was ever going to happen. And so it still boggles my mind that it's happening, and
Yeah,
it's great. It's
yeah, it is. And
yeah.
and if you look at Joe Biden's, history on climate, it's not that he was a climate courage, exemplar, his whole
Right.
career. It's that the movement has grown and has won. Even, Obama, was, bragging about the pipelines that he built, and then when Biden steps in the first day, he cancels the Keystone XL pipeline. That
Yeah.
goes to show the wins that the movement has gained, in these past years, and it's because of, people fighting for this being a top issue, and we're gaining some traction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Becky, thank you so much for reading the book and for showcasing it on your YouTube channel. I think you've done such a phenomenal job at understanding and translating it in what I've seen. And it's just great talking to you today. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and writing this book. It is amazing, and I will continue to yell it from the rooftops. And
Fantastic.
let's make sure we stay in touch for future. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to checking in your future book reviews.
Will do. Well, I hope that you found this interesting. Please go ahead and comment below what parts you found the most compelling of our interview, either part 1 or part 2's part of the interview. And next Thursday, we will be starting our next climate book, All We Can Save. And it is written by many people, but it's edited by Ayana Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine K. Wilkinson. But see, here's all the different artists. Notice that they are all women, because this book is basically a compilation of voices from the women's side of the climate conversation. So, All We Can Save: Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis. Now, let me go ahead right now and just read you the back of the book. Provocative and illuminating essays from women at the forefront of the climate movement who are harnessing truth, courage, and solutions to lead humanity forward. There is a renaissance blooming in the climate movement. Leadership that is more characteristically feminine and more faithfully feminist, rooted in compassion, connection, creativity, and collaboration. While it's clear that women and girls are vital voices and agents of change for this planet, they are too often missing from the proverbial table. More than a problem of bias, it's a dynamic that sets us up for failure. To change everything, we need everyone. All We Can Save illuminates the expertise and insights of dozens of diverse women leading on climate in the United States. Scientists, journalists, farmers, lawyers, teachers, activists, innovators, wonks, and designers across generations, geographies, and races, and aims to advance a more representative, nuanced, and solutions-oriented public conversation on the climate crisis. These women offer a spectrum of ideas and insights for how we can rapidly, radically reshape society. Intermixing essays with poetry and art, All We Can Save is both a balm and a guide for knowing and holding what has been done to the world, while bolstering our resolve never to give up on one another and our collective future. We must summon truth, courage, and solutions to turn away from the brink and towards life-giving possibility. Curated by 2 climate leaders, this book is a collection and celebration of visionaries who are leading us on the path towards all we can save. So I hope that you will join me next Thursday for the live stream. Go ahead and leave me in the comments below if I should make the live stream be on YouTube or Twitch, because I'm going back and forth on those, because obviously I have an audience on YouTube, not Twitch. I actually have no experience on Twitch, but I hear that it's better for live streaming. So leave me in the comments below what you think about that. And remember to go ahead and check out Revolve if you have a nonprofit in mind that you are interested in putting solar panels on the roof of. And to also just remember to talk about the climate every day with everyone all the time. If you want to be weird like me, put on your Wi-Fi name, talk about climate change, because that's my Wi-Fi name. Fun factoid, I'm a dork. It was actually my roommate's idea though, just so you know. Thanks, Margot. Without further ado, support your local news organizations and talk about the climate every day, and I will see you all on Tuesday where we will talk about offshore wind. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.